are certain mistakes that all adult students tend to make in their piano practice, especially beginner students, but really adult students of all ages and perhaps even teen beginners too. These 4 mistakes can cause so much grief and heartache, and laying them all out on the table for an older student is really helpful so that they can see that they're not alone. Everyone else makes these mistakes too, and they can avoid them or work with them. So the first mistake I call home-tinted glasses, otherwise known as "I played it better at home." Younger students can say this too, of course, but I find it even more common with adult students. They come to the studio and they're so disappointed in their own playing and so frustrated that no matter how many times they practice it at home and no matter how well it goes, it doesn't seem to get better once they get here. Okay, there are several truths behind this. Number 1, which I tell them is, yes, you did play it better at home. That is true. The reason you played it better at home is you were on your own. I wasn't here watching you. You didn't have the pressure on you, and I'm sure you did play it better at home. And that's just reality, and that's part of the process. The second thing, though, is often what you're remembering is the last time you played it or the best time you played it during the week. And chances are you're not going to play it exactly that way once you get here. You don't get to just choose which version of the file you save in your brain. It's sort of a mismatch of all the things that you played during the week. And number 3 is you're probably going faster than you did at home because once you get nervous, your heart rate raises. And so you need to make a conscious effort to go even slower when you get here. Many adult students will practice until they get it right. This comes from the phrase, which I'm sure you've heard, don't practice until you get it right, practice until you can't get it wrong. And that can be a little bit perfectionist leaning for my taste, but there is some truth in it. You can't just practice until you get it right once. So you can't just play, assuming that's not the scale you're aiming for, and say, oh, I did it, over. The problem there is you played it wrong a bunch of times. And as we said before, your brain is going to mash together all the times you played it and produce something like that the next time. You can't just aim to get it right and then stop. It leads to I played it better at home-itis, and it just doesn't make for good results. So the real focus should be on getting it right every time, which sounds too far to be possible. But it brings me to my next point. We all know it. Most students play too fast. This is something I need to drill into students again and again. They just play too fast, too soon. They try to play it at full tempo right away, and that's not what practice is. If you play it slowly enough, you will be able to put in every detail right away. You will be playing it right away. You will be playing it correctly from the out, not just on the last repetition, right? So getting students to slow down is a big part of my job as a teacher. And finally, really this is a bringing together of all of the last 3 points. Adult students, much more than young students, expect it to sound like the finished product right away. They might not be able to say it this way, they might deny it if you put this to them, but really, they play a piece and they expect it to sound like the recording or like the real thing on the first go, or pretty soon. They're not appreciating that their practice should sound completely different to the finished thing. So their practice should be really slow. It should be in small parts. And if they can do that, they'll be able to play it correctly every time because it's slow enough and it's broken down enough. But it won't sound correct to them. Something I came to realize after working with a lot of adult students is if you didn't grow up as a musician, you can't slow down music in your head. So as someone who's played for a long time, when I hear a recording and then I play it at a much slower tempo, I basically think they sound the same. Not the same, but I think I can equate them together. I can match them to each other. Adult students can't really do that. So the recording that is at a fast tempo, if they're a beginner, if they don't have a trained musical ear, they tend not to be able to slow that down in their head. So that is a skill that we need to cultivate over time so that when they practice a piece at that slow tempo, they're hearing the finished product within that practicing tempo, within the elements that they're working on. Those are the 4 practice mistakes that I see all adult students make. Let me know what you have found adult students to have trouble with the most in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe before you leave so that you get the next one of these as soon as it comes out.